What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Split Decisions. I'm Patrick,
And I'm Justin.
and we're about to break down this UFC fight night. Alex Perez versus Tatsuro Taira, taking place at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas. I'm going to send it over to Justin to break down the first fight for y'all.
All right, first fight of the night. We got Nuerdanbieke versus Milk Costa. It's not his full name. I'm not going to butcher his full name here, so we're calling him Milk. So we'll start out. Nuerdanbieke. He's 30 years old, 5'8", with a 69-inch reach. He's a tough striker with the ability to hold his own in the grappling. Coming into this fight, off a loss to Steve Garcia over a year ago, but he does have at least one knockdown in his last 3 fights, showing he can bang. On the other side, we got Milk. He's 20-7, 1-2 in the UFC. 27 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach. He's a BJJ black belt who trains Muay Thai. He's got 7 KOs, 6 subs, 7 decisions. So it's safe to say he's pretty well-rounded. He's back down at featherweight after he, too, got destroyed by Steve Garcia about 6 months ago up at lightweight. I think this fight's pretty simple to break down and pick, in my opinion. I think if Costa can survive the first round, not get flatlined by a powerful Nuerdanbieke. Nuerdanbieke gasses, pretty quick. So I think Milk can wear him down, outlast the first, kind of wear him down the second, possibly get a second or third round submission. So yeah, give me Milk by submission, second or third round. Who you like?
Damn, we're going to start off with a split decision already. Yeah, we got Nuerdanbieke versus Costa. My pick is going to be Nuerdanbieke in this fight. I just think he's the more physical guy. They're both relatively untrustable as a favorite. I'm not willing to lay the juice on Costa. They both are coming off a loss to the same person, Steve Garcia, at juiced favorite prices. So I don't think Costa's the person I want to be laying juice on. He's 1-2 in the UFC. Nuerdanbieke is 3-2 in the UFC. A little more experience. He has a lot more fights under his belt overall. He is a grappler, but super powerful hands and likes to throw the hands. But he does have a grappling as a backup. Costa is a good fighter. Fights out of shoot box with Charles Oliveira and some good names. Definitely has some grit. Just not a fighter I'm willing to lay juice on. If I was to bet it, it's gonna be Nuerdanbieke at dog money. And yeah, that's gonna be my pick. On to the next fight. What is the next fight? Because I know they changed up these
The
these
fight
lineups.
It's Julia, Polastri and Josephine Knutsson.
2 relatively new girls. Julia Polastri is a debut, coming off of a second round sub win on the Contender Series. Haven't seen too much of her, but obviously she got some jiu-jitsu in her bag. We'll have to see more from the striking because she is facing a solid kickboxing, Muay Thai base, coming out of Sweden.
Yeah,
Fights out of Sweden, correct? She is 1-0 in the UFC. She trains with Khamzat Chimaev. So definitely a powerful camp behind her. Some good training sessions probably coming. My pick is going to be Josephine Knutsson in this fight. I think she's the better kickboxer from what I've seen. And just off the fact I feel like she's training with some good guys, has some high level people in her corner, and also has a UFC fight under her belt as well. I think it's just going to have a little bit more experience and is going to be able to get it done against Julia Polastri. As a debut, she's going to have to prove something. But what you got in this fight?
Yeah, I don't really have much to say on this or much insight. Both girls are pretty new and early in their career. You got a debut on one side, you got second UFC fight on the other. Knutsson likes to stand and throw. Julia likes to mix it up. She can stand and throw, but she also likes to grapple. Josephine did show good takedown defense and power in her last fight. If she gets taken down, I could see her getting subbed. But like you said, she's been training with Khamzat. She trains in Sweden. Pretty tough. She's 5'3". She's got a smaller, 60-inch reach, where Julie is, 5'2" with a 63.5-inch reach. Just give me Josephine. I'm gonna go with Josephine. More than likely by decision. I just think she's going to be way tougher with the better striking.
I am gonna go by decision as well. We ran through that first fight. I didn't give a method in that Nuerdanbieke fight. I am gonna call Nuerdanbieke by KO. Just to refresh on that. But
yeah, he's got that power.
But yeah, Josephine Knutsson by decision is gonna be both of our picks. And on to the next fight.
Next fight, we got Jeka Saragih and Weston Wilson. Where we at? Jeka is from Indonesia. He's 14-3. He's 1-1 in the UFC. He's 29 years old, 5'8" with a 69-inch reach. He's coming into this fight off the heels of a first-round KO win against Lucas Alexander. He's a good striker. He's got heavy hands. 9 of his 14 wins are by KO. He's got 4 submissions too, so if he can't knock him out, he can. He does have the ability to sub you. On the other side, you have Weston Wilson. He's 35-year-old featherweight. He's 6'1" with a 73-inch reach. He's not a small man at all, especially to be fighting at featherweight. He trains with Wonder Boy. He's got that karate background, but he does also have submission wins on his record. Both of his UFC fights before this, he was pretty much like a sacrificial lamb for Gene Silva and Joe Anderson Breda. Both times he got knocked out in the first round. This man has no chin. I feel like this fight's pretty easy to pick. I don't think Weston's cut out for the UFC. He's looked awful in his last 2 fights. I can see him getting knocked out here too. I think it could be competitive if Jeka isn't smart and doesn't have fight IQ. But my pick's going to be Jeka and give me him by first round knockout. I'm gonna follow the trend. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Jeka Saragih in this fight. Coming off the road to UFC, he is 1-1 in the UFC, as Weston Wilson is 0-2 in the UFC, coming off 2 first-round KOs. Does have that karate base, can bounce in and out, has long arms, will have the reach advantage against Jeka, but I just see Jeka being able to get in the pocket and get something big off on him, or potentially mixing up some grappling. Jeka is coming off 5 of 6 KO wins. So his last 5 of 6 wins have been KOs. So he's kind of fell in love with his hands. He likes striking and could potentially hold problems against a karate guy who wants to stay on the outside, who wants to pick you apart with long kicks, stay at range with whatever he throws. So I could see him potentially causing problems, but my pick is going to be Jeka, depending on what the line is.
The line right now, he is a minus 340 favorite.
At minus 340, I'd probably stay away from it. Potentially maybe look at a prop, a KO prop, a sub prop. That's probably would be the route I went if I did bet on it. But my pick is going to be Jeka Saragih. And
see that? I'll add that first round knockout prop is probably going to be juiced just because Weston has been knocked out 2 fights in a row in the first round. Probably not going to get great money on that, but
minus 150.
It's something you could look at.
If they're giving me plus money, potentially a round 1 or round 2, even putting them both together, a round 1 or a round 2 knockout, you could probably get some plus money there. I might look at that, but right. So what's the next fight?
The next fight is Carli, Judice, and Gabriela Fernandes.
Another 2 kind of fresh girls in the UFC. We got a debut in Carli Judice coming off the Contender Series. Did fight a split decision loss against Kara Scotty, which was actually a good little scrap between them. So she does have some dog in her. She can go 3 rounds. Gabriela Fernandes, she's 0-2 in the UFC. Both were short notice fights. So kind of want to see what she does on a full camp. Probably stay away from it betting wise. I feel like Gabriela Fernandes is going to be maybe the more physical girl out of the 2. Might just be able to do some cage pushing, potentially get some grappling going. I do think she has powerful hands. Um, so my pick's gonna be Gabriela Fernandez, but probably no bet coming on this side.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with Pat here because Carli, I mean, she's 25. She's only 3-1, period, with her, in MMA. She has 4 amateur wins, but as a pro, she's only 3-1. She's coming off that loss in the Contender Series, but she's taking this on short notice, so that's why she's getting this look. When it comes to breaking this down, I don't really have much to say. I just think the inexperience of Carli and the pressure of this being her debut on short notice is going to make it difficult for her to win. I think Gabriella will just be too much, overwhelms her. She's got more experience. She is coming in 0-2 right now, last 2 fights, but I just think that there's a reason why she's the favorite. Carli could prove me wrong, but my pick's going to be Gabrielle Fernandez. And honestly, if I had to pick, I'm probably going to say decision, but it wouldn't surprise me if she subs her. So, and it.
Cool.
All right. Moving on to the next fight, we got Garrett Arnfield and Brady Hiestand. Garrett Arnfield is 27 years old. He is 5'6" with a 70-inch reach. 10-3. Sorry, 10-3. In his last in the UFC, he's 2-1. He's coming in off that win against Brad Katana. On the other side, you got Brady Hiestand. He is 8-2. He is 26 years old. Sorry, I lost my notes here. My computer's bugging out. He's 5'8" with a 71-inch reach. He's coming into this fight on a 2-fight winning streak. When it comes down to it, both these guys are wrestlers. Brady is still young. He's still relatively new in the promotion. He was on The Ultimate Fighter. He hasn't really faced the competition that Garrett has faced. Brad Katana was a tough fight for Garrett. That showed, though, he kind of muscled Brad. He showed that, he's been on a nice little run, that he's starting to add his striking into the game. He was just a predominantly, grapple-heavy style fighter, but now he's mixing in the hands. He's mixing in, well-timed takedowns, clinch work against the fence. So as far as a pick, I'm just going to go off really who I think is going to be the more aggressive wrestler, and I think that's going to be Garrett Arnfield. So give me Garrett Arnfield, probably more so by decision because Brady he's tough. But yeah, what do you think?
I am gonna go the same way. I like Garrett Arnfield in this fight. He is 2-1 in the UFC. Brady Hiestand also 2-1 in the UFC. Did weather a storm against Dana Bakaraw. Got hurt early in that fight. Came back. Ended up finishing Bakaraw in the third. So he has some dog in him. I do feel like Garrett Arnfield's game has gotten better since the David Onama loss in his debut, which I do believe was a late short replacement fight. I believe he came in late on that fight, late notice. The win over Brad Katana is a good win. I do feel like Brad Katana is a good overall fighter. So the fact he won a unanimous decision against Brad Katana says he's definitely getting better. I do feel like he just has more upside than Brady Hiestand. And he's also hungry. He still bartends at night.
Damn. Yeah, I didn't
look
know
at
that.
it. Look at his Instagram bio. He's a UFC fighter by day. He still bartends by night. So he's on the grind. I feel like he's hungry for some money, hungry for a bonus. I could potentially see him getting a finish. I feel like Brady Hiestand is hittable, super hittable. And like you said, Garrett Arnfield's been working on his hands. Can mix in the takedowns well, so that'll give you something else to worry about.
He was keeping Brad away with that jab. He was pumping that jab for the last fight.
So I could even potentially see a Garrett Arnfield finish in this fight. Club and sub, potentially even just a knockout, a TKO type deal. But ultimately, I think my pick is going to be Arnfield by decision. I think he'll just be able to wear him down over 3 rounds and just be the better fighter. But if they're giving me a juicy knockout,
Line.
some a juicy knockout line, then definitely I will consider it.
Right, because Brady is a really good grappler, so I don't see him getting
So
subbed.
no sub,
He's going to be his submission defense is really
he's
good.
hittable on the feet.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's definitely hittable. So your next fight is Nate Maness and Jimmy Flick.
Nate Maness,
take it away.
You got Nate Maness 4-2 in the UFC versus Jimmy Flick, who's 2-2 in the UFC. Jimmy Flick, sub or bust. Every single one of his wins comes from a submission. So if he can't implement that jiu-jitsu game, he's kind of a fish out of water. Nate Maness does have losses in UFC, but it's to great competition. Umar Nurmagomedov, Tagir Ulanbekov, was a plus 200 dog in his last fight against Mendonça and won that by first round ground and pound. So I feel like, he's over. The books are kind of was valuing him there, and he kind of turned the tides. I do feel like my pick is going to be Nate Maness, but that negative 400 money line, I don't think I'm gonna lay that.
I'm staying for.
Because when's the last time Nate Maness been negative 400 in the UFC? It probably might be right against Jimmy Flick, but I think I'm still gonna stay away from it just to stay away from a potential meme sub, or anything could happen in a fight. But yeah, Jimmy Flick, just low level competition. He just either subs you or he gets knocked out. So I'm gonna say Nate Maness by KO, probably first round.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same. I'm not gonna waste much time on this at all. Nate Maness in no way should be a minus 400 favorite. In no fucking world, no galaxy, no nothing should Nate Maness ever be a minus 400 favorite. And we could very well see him come out in this fight as a minus 400 favorite and get leg locked in the first 60 seconds to like an Imanari roll or something wild, just because Jimmy Flick is that wild with his jiu-jitsu.
Or he may come out and look negative 1,000.
Yeah, or he may come out and just flatline Jimmy Flick. But Jimmy Flick does have the only flying triangle submission in UFC history. Like Pat said, he's submission or bust. If he does not get a sub, he's done for. His last fight, he did put up a fight in the first round. He looked, pretty decent. Second round, even he was kind of staying out of danger, but he gassed and then just, of course, looked like Jimmy Flick. So when it comes down to it, give me Nate Maness by a finish in some way, whether it's by ground and pound or just flatlines him with a big hook or something. But I am staying far away from that minus 400 money line. So on to the next fight. A really exciting fight. We got Tagir Ulanbekov versus Joshua Van.
The people's main event.
Yeah, Tagir Ulanbekov is 32 years old. This is at flyweight. He's 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. On the other side, Joshua Van, he's 10-1, 22 years old. He is one of the youngest fighters in the UFC. He's 5'5" with a 65-inch reach. And you might think like, oh, wow, that's wild, a 5-inch reach disadvantage. But Tagir, I promise you, is not going to use that reach advantage. He is a dominant Dagestani wrestler. When you think of anything Dagestani, you know their style. They are going to come at you. They're going to feint like they're about to throw, and then they're going to blast double. And don't get close to the fence because you're fucked. You're going down. So Joshua Van, though, on the other side, is a nice, flashy, smooth, silky smooth striker. I really enjoy watching his fights. He's very young. He has a lot of promise. We don't really know what his takedown defense is like because we haven't seen it really tested, but we're about to find that out. As much as I'd love to see Joshua Van come out here and get him, a knockout or stuff these takedowns and piece Tagir up, I'm going to be honest with myself here, and I'm going to pick the Russian. I'm going to go Tagir Ulanbekov. More than likely by submission, probably a second-round submission when he's got Joshua Van just gassed. But give me Tagir. Give me by submission. What do you think?
Tagir Ulanbekov versus Joshua Van. I do like Joshua Van. He's 3-0 in the UFC. Tagir, like you said, will have a reach advantage in this fight. Um, Coming off 2 submission wins, 4-1 in the UFC. Only bad loss was to Tim Elliott, which a lot of people thinks he won that fight, but does have a combat sambo base, and will hold some experience edge in this fight. Like Justin said, them Dagestanis,
They don't
when it
play.
comes to that sambo and that wrestling, they don't play. So I'm eager to see how Joshua Van reacts to the pressure, to all the different takedowns, all the different body locks, all the different trips that Tagir is going to throw at him. I think it's going to be a hard first round for him. I do see him getting taken down early. I see Tagir probably winning the first round. May look at a live Joshua Van bet if he survives the first round, um, and potentially just hope that those takedowns don't come as easy in that second and third round. Um,
Right.
Potentially maybe a gas out by Ulanbekov. I think his cardio is pretty good though. And his conditioning and his training is always good.
They train in the mountains, but they
Joshua
do.
Van, super clean, compact striking. He doesn't really make a lot of mistakes on the feet. Keeps his elbows tucked to his body. Just super tight guard. Everything comes fast and right back. Just good overall. Super, a lot of upside. Super potential. 22 years old, so super green, just super young. Do think he does have a lot of upside, but Tagir will hold that experience edge. And just a random stat: Joshua Van does land 6 more significant strikes per minute than Tagir Ulanbekov. So I feel like on the feet, um, Joshua Van is obviously going to be the more polished striker. I feel like
Miles ahead.
any second that this fight is on the feet, I feel like he's going to be racking up points. Um, but it's just how can he contain that grappling and that pressure, that those pushes against the fence. Um, so I'm eager to see, but we'll potentially look at a live bet on Joshua Van. I am gonna stick my head out and pick Josh Van in this fight. Um,
I can respect it. I'd like to see. Like I
at
said, I'd
plus
love to see it.
165.
Yeah.
As a dog, just a good dog to bet on. He debuted as a plus 300 dog, and I believe won. Um,
I don't
as a
remember what the line.
if I'm not mistaken, it was either plus 300 or negative 300. So I might be wrong on that, but just feel like he is good as a dog and performs well in any UFC fight. So I'm gonna go with Joshua Van in this pick, and probably by decision.
Nice. Okay, your next fight is Adam Fuggit and Josh Quinlan.
Okay, we got Adam Fuggit. He's 1-2 in the UFC versus Josh Quinlan, 1-2 in the UFC as well. So looks like good matchmaking here. Um, Adam Fuggit has some losses, but they are good competition. I would say Mike Mallet, Mike Morales. I feel like was his debut, who was also a dog. Two well-rounded, just MMA fighters who will give a lot of people problems. Um, Adam Fuggit, he can mix in takedowns, lengthy on the feet, has a long frame. Will have a 5-inch reach advantage in this fight. Um, Josh Quinlan, he loses the better strikers. So people who can outstrike him on the feet, he loses to people who are lengthy and can stay on the outside and just kind of negate his power. He loses to. Um, so my pick is going to be Adam Fuggit. I do believe he's a dog in this fight. Um, Yeah, that's gonna be my pick. Josh Quinlan, power in the hands, but I just feel like Adam Fugit has more ways to win. I feel like he can potentially just stay on the outside of the power and piece him up, or mix in the takedowns and just give Quinlan just too much to really think about. So my pick is gonna be Adam Fugit. What you think?
Um, just to answer your, they're both. It's a -110, so it's pretty much pick'ems on both
I do
sides.
believe he started as a dog though, so
Might
looks like some dog
probably.
money has came in on Fugit.
Yeah. So I don't really have much to add to this. Like Pat said, Fugit has fought the tougher competition. He is 35, where Josh Quinlan is 31. So Adam Fugit, even though he's only 9-4, he got kind of a late start in MMA with that 77-inch reach to Quinlan's 72. If he's smart enough, he'll work behind that jab and he'll be able to, keep Quinlan at bay and watch out for that power. What does worry me though is that he isn't scared to stand and bang. Like he'll stay in the pocket if somebody's standing there throwing with him.
Fuggit.
Yeah, and Josh Quinlan does have power.
Yeah.
Josh Quinlan, now he did get a knockout. He does have a UFC knockout, but he was also on steroids, so he popped for that. Openly said he took steroids because he was insecure of the way his body looked, and he wanted to tone up and to look like a fighter. And that to me, I don't like a fighter that I pick to be insecure about themselves, because if you're insecure about your looks, what are you thinking in the octagon? What are you thinking when your opponent's there and he's done peppered you with a jab 20, 30 times? You're second guessing yourself, then you're shelling up when you're not as hurt as what, you may think you are. So for that reason, I'm also going to pick Adam, but I'm not as confident as what Pat sounded like. I think it's, a close money fight for a reason. It could go either way. I wouldn't be surprised if Josh Quinlan caught Adam on the chin while they're, in the middle of an exchange, because Josh is a good counter striker. But if I'm, being smart with my money, give me Adam. Give me Adam by decision. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next one, which is Asu Almabaev versus Jose Johnson. Asu Almabaev is 30 years old. He's 19-2. He's 5'4" with a 65-inch reach, and he is a grapple heavy, very persistent, very stay on your body type of wrestler. He's also from Kazakhstan, trains with Shavkat. On the other side, we got Jose Johnson, 16-8. This man is 29 years old, 6 foot tall with a 71.5-inch reach. And I put emphasis on that because this man is fighting at flyweight, 125 pounds, with a 6 foot tall frame. I don't know how this man is going to make flyweight. It's the first time ever trying to do it, but he will come into this fight with a crazy reach advantage of 6.5 inches. But to me, that does not matter. Jose Johnson, he is a striker at heart. He was, a kickboxer before he transitioned into MMA. He does like to strike. He does kind of have a little bit of grappling, but not much. But Asu Almabaev is a dog, and this man is going to be on him from the time that bell, rings and they go at it. I'll be surprised if this man even tries to pump any feints. He wants one thing, and that is to maul you, and that is to smash. So to sum it up and to keep it short and sweet, I'm going with Asu. Yes, that line is minus 420, and that might seem crazy, but I fully believe he is worth every single penny. And I think by the time the fight starts, we're going to see this man in the minus 6, maybe minus 700 range, just because I feel like he's that much of a lock. So what do you think?
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Asu as well. Super dominant grappling. Trains with Shavkat out of Kazakhstan. Super. He's gonna be a problem for this division. Let's just say it like that.
He's
He's gonna be a problem for the division. He's 2-0 in the UFC already. Super strong grappling, super relentless grappling. Good on the feet as well. Jose Johnson, decent striker, but I feel like he's just gonna try to strike too much. He's gonna try to sit down on something. Asu's gonna wrap him up. Asu's gonna take him down. Jose Johnson does have sub losses. I feel like Asu's just gonna find a sub, probably in the first or the second. And yeah, that's gonna be my pick. Not too long of a breakdown on this or too crazy of a take. I just think Asu is gonna do what a negative 400, negative 450 is supposed to do in this fight.
I agree.
What's the next one?
The next one is Miles Johns and Silva Dandrosh.
Gotcha. Yeah, we got Miles Johns. He's 5-2 in the UFC versus Douglas Silva de Andrade, who's 7-5 in the UFC. So has a lot of experience. Has fought guys like Rob Font, Peter Yan, Lerone Murphy, Saeed Nurmagomedov, which are decent losses to have. Good BJJ, but uses it more defensively than offensively, I would say. Good striking, good kicks, kind of a dog, just wants to be gritty, wants to get in your face, wants to force some exchanges. Um, Miles Johns is going to be younger. I feel like he is going to be more physical, more physically strong. He's explosive, but tends to gas in fights. I feel like, but gasses, but pushes through.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like he has just enough, like 15 minutes exactly.
like
of cardio.
he pushes through. He looks like he's dying, but he pushes through, similar to an Alexander Pantoja.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of like a gritty, like, yeah, I'm tired, but I'm about to fight it.
No, that's a real good comparison.
You know what I mean?
That's a real, yeah. I can see that's exactly how he is.
So he is explosive. He mixes in takedowns well. He has power in the hands. But my pick is going to be Douglas Silva de Andrade. He is a little bit older. I feel like Johns has that youth. He has, obviously, he's going to be more physical. But that experience goes a long way. And I feel like Douglas Silva de Andrade just he dogs out close fights, and I feel like he can get the win here. So my pick is going to be Douglas Silva de Andrade. And what you think?
See, I was with you really with everything you said until the very end. I think Miles Johns is a stud. He's 14-2 in the UFC. He's 5-2, I think, in the UFC. On the other side, Silva de Andrade, he's 7-5 in the UFC. So both of these guys do have that, UFC experience. Silva de Andrade has fought more people and has fought, the bigger names, the more experienced. But Miles Johns, I think he's strong. I think he's well-rounded. He came in as a wrestle heavy, like mostly just he made sure he worked wrestling into his game plan every single fight. Then he started getting a couple finishes. He fell in love with his hands because he got a big, overhand right against Anderson dos Santos. But the last few fights, he's been working his wrestling in. Like Pat said, he does look like he's gassing. By the end of the first, end of the second, if you got money on this man, you're going to be sweating it, thinking, oh no, he's gassed, he's done. But he just grabs that third gear. That dog comes out. I don't know what you want to call it, but he just he pulls it out of the mud, and he somehow, gets a takedown that he needs, or gets the strikes that he needs to add it up. So with all that being said, I'm going to take Miles Johns here. He was the underdog. It's kind of moving more so to pick him now. It's -105 to -115 for Silva de Andrade.
So some dog money coming in on Johns.
Right. So my pick is going to be Miles Johns. I think he's going to make a statement here and show that he's somebody to look out for at bantamweight. So next up, we have Lucas Almeida and Timmy. Was Cuamba?
Timmy Cuamba.
Okay. Lucas Almeida is 14-3. He is 1-2 in the UFC. 5'11" with a 71-inch reach. On the other side, you got Timmy Cuamba. He is 5'9" with a 71-inch reach. He's 8-2, and he is 0-1 in the UFC. There's really not much to say about this fight from my side. I am not a fan of Lucas Almeida. I do not think he's that good. Out of his 1 win and 2 losses in the UFC, he's lost to Andre Fili and Pat Sabatini. Andre Fili's a respectable loss, but he did get knocked out by him. The Pat Sabatini, Pat's really not, who everybody thought he was going to be. His 1 win was Michael Trizano. That's really not a big name in the UFC. On the other side, Timmy Cuamba, he's an exciting new fighter. He's got 4 knockouts, 4 decisions with those 8 wins. His last time out, he did lose, but it was a split decision. It wasn't like he went out there and got dominated. It was a close fight. It was just one of those coin flip type fights. I don't really know much about either of these guys, or enough to give you a detailed breakdown of like your money's safe with my pick. So just for the sake of the show, I'm going to pick Timmy Cuamba because I feel like Lucas Almeida, I just do not believe in his chin. If Andre Fili's knocking you out in the first round, Andre Fili's not known to have that power. Andre Fili's more of of a volume guy, more of a just add up total strike guy. So if he's knocking you out, Timmy does have power. I know that. 4 knockouts. Give me Timmy. What do you think?
Yeah, I like Timmy in this fight as well. You do have Lucas Almeida, 1-2 in the UFC. He's coming off a sub and a KO loss, so he can lose both ways. Um, he stands upright. He doesn't have the best striking. Keeps his head on the center line. I think that's terrible for a guy like Timmy Cuamba who can move and strike on the outside. He has good footwork. Cuamba does mix in takedowns. Um, he lost a split decision against Balaji Oki in his debut, but it was a short notice fight at 155.
Right.
This is a 145 pound
weight.
fight, I believe.
It's his natural weight class.
Cuamba actually won his Contender Series fight last year, but didn't get the contract. Fought Balaji Oki late notice, and I guess received the contracts off that.
Yes,
just stepping
3-fight
in,
contract.
just being that guy to save a spot. So you got to respect that. I do like Cuamba in this fight. I just don't, like you said, I don't think Lucas Almeida is that good. I don't think his stand up is good. He has fought some decent competition, but other than that, I don't really see much of an edge on his side. So,
right.
Yeah, my pick's gonna be Timmy Kwan, but I'm gonna say decision. Yeah, I think he can just be the better fighter over 3 rounds. Just mix stuff in, outstrike him on the feet, mix in takedowns, potentially get some grappling going. Ultimately, just see him winning the decision.
So your next fight up is Ikram Aliskerov and Antonio Trocoli.
We got Ikram Aliskerov versus Antonio Trocoli. Trocoli. Aliskerov 2-0 in the UFC. Antonio Trocoli 12-3 overall. Aliskerov, a Contender Series prospect. Only loss is to Khamzat Chimaev, and
that's a good loss.
That's a good loss to have. Great loss to have. Khamzat super dominant, undefeated. So obviously
Crazy.
A good loss to have. He's on a 7-fight winning streak, 3 KOs, 3 subs, and a decision. So he's won the fight multiple ways. Not just a KO or bust type of guy, not just a sub or bust type of guy. He's pretty overall a good fighter. Great fighter, I'd say. He's probably going to be a problem for this division. I just see this as another finish, another highlight reel for Aliskerov. Trocoli stepping in late notice, short notice replacement. He's just coming in to get knocked out. Won a Contender Series fight in 2019, but pissed dirty, so eventually that was turned to a no contest. And he is coming off a sub win, so I feel like he's going to want a sub in this fight, or he's just going to get knocked out on the feet. Holds a 6-inch reach advantage, but I just see Aliskerov kind of negating that, getting in on the outside or getting in on the inside and just kind of landing something big, overhand right, powerful hook, just something just going to put him, on his ass. Trocoli, I keep butchering that name. Trocoli, inactive the last 2.5 years.
He's been on suspension. You saw it popped him.
Last fight was at 200 pounds catch weight, and this is 185 pounds,
middleweight.
Correct. So might be a little bit big, but ultimately I feel like Aliskerov is going to get a win, and I feel like he's going to do it in dominant fashion. And I just see another highlight reel for Ikram Aliskerov, and that's going to be my pick.
Right. So anybody that knows me, talks to me in real life, knows that I've been big on Ikram for a while. Even when he made his UFC debut, I was trying to put everybody on, trying to tell them like Ikram is the truth. But if you guys noticed while Pat was breaking down this fight, I had just a random shock reaction. I just noticed Ikram is a -900 favorite, and I don't care how big I am on this guy or how much I think like, damn, he's got big power, big scary Russian. Nobody is worth -900.
No, don't throw that in a parlay. Don't do none of that.
It's not worth it, man. Anytime, and I don't think Trocoli stands a chance to beat Ikram,
but he's a big physical guy.
He's a big guy. But anytime you see a -900 or bigger like that, it's always the perfect fight for an upset.
Don't do that.
And I'm not do that. So just stay far away from it. But when it comes down to it, I think this is pretty cut and dry. Ikram Aliskerov, like Pat said, his only loss in his MMA career period is to Khamzat Chimaev, and he was giving Khamzat a good fight before Khamzat ultimately caught him with a sneaky uppercut. It was a viral knockout. But on the other side, Antonio Trocoli, he is a grappling heavy, Brazilian fighter. He is 12-3. He used to fight a light heavyweight, so he is probably going to have some good size, and he'll probably be the better looking fighter as far as physique. His Ikram is not ripped. He kind of looks like your average middle-aged dad. But when it comes down to it, he's tough. He's got heavy hands, good striking. And if he's not getting the best of them on the striking, if he's fighting a better striker, he can take him down. So I feel like Ikram is definitely easily going to get a first-round finish. If not, it's going to be early second-round finish. But please do not put your money on it. Maybe play a finish, maybe play, first or second round KO, but do not play that money line. So moving on to the main event of this card, we got Alex Perez versus Tatsuro Taira. Alex Perez is 25-8. He is 7-4 in the UFC. This man's been around. He's 5'6" with a 65.5-inch reach. On the other side, we have the young stud prospect Tatsuro Taira. He's 15-0, 5-0 already in the UFC at only 24 years old. I mean, that tells you all you need to know. This man's on the rise. He's on the move. He's constantly taking fights. 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. This man was the number one prospect coming out of Japan. He's one of the most exciting flyweight fighters right now. And when you hear this kid talk, he can barely speak English, but he will always tell you he's very happy to get those wins. Every fight, he is very, very happy to be in the UFC. And when it comes down to it, yeah, this is going to be his toughest test because Alex Perez has been around. I mean, he's fought the who's who of flyweight. He's fought everybody from Demetrius Johnson to Matthias Nicolau, Muhammad Makayev, Alexandra Pantoja. Like, he's fought everybody, Davison Figueiredo. But he's not really dominant in any one area. He's got good striking. He's got decent wrestling. He's got decent takedown defense, decent, jiu-jitsu defense. But when it comes down to it, Tatsuro is a dog. He doesn't get tired. He's relentless. He does have striking. He can, get a finish on the feet, but he doesn't have to because his grappling is very dominant. He's very good at what he does, and that is just pressure constantly. So my pick is going to be Tatsuro Taira. I can't really call. He might be able to get a sub because Alex Perez can be subbed. If there's a weakness, it's definitely his ground game because, he's got a good chin. But give me Tatsuro Taira by decision. What do you think?
Yeah, I also like Tatsuro Taira in this fight. I think he has a lot of potential in the UFC. Probably future champion in the UFC. Facing Alex Perez, who, like you said, has a lot of experience, is coming off a KO win to Matheus Nicolau, so has some momentum going for him. Had a competitive fight with another young prospect in Makayev, which is kind of the same
Wheelhouse.
comparable to this fight. You got a young prospect coming up,
Right.
about to fight a guy who's had a little more UFC experience than them and potential taking of the ranking,
Right.
a pass of the torch. Alex Perez did lose that fight, Makayev, but showed he could still compete.
It was close.
with the the newer guys. Only losses in the UFC have been to champions and former champions.
Right.
So, I mean, that's pretty good.
a
That's some
resume.
good losses to have.
It's a good resume.
Alex Perez definitely not a slouch. Like Justin said, does have good wrestling, good striking, pretty well rounded everywhere, but doesn't
great
put it together
in
all the time.
area.
Super inactive in between a lot of his last fights as well. A lot of canceled fights. So you wonder kind of what's going on behind the scenes, maybe.
Right.
Tatsuro Taira, super dominant in the grappling, like Justin said, just super relentless, great with back takes, got a stupid submission bag, triangles, arm bars, rear naked chokes,
Quick with him.
triangle arm bars. I mean, he's good at just making, as soon as you make a mistake, he's good at taking advantage of that mistake quick. For how young he is, He almost fights like he's got a lot more experience in that cage.
Fights like he's 30.
Coming out of Japan, a lot of the Japan regional competition probably wasn't that good, but he was making quick work of them and doing what you should do with somebody if they're quote not that good.
In and out.
So Tatsuro Taira is going to be my pick, probably by submission. But I could see Alex Perez maybe just weathering the storm, staying safe on the bottom, not allowing Tatsuro to get a submission off. But we did see Tatsuro get a KO against Carlos Hernandez, gave Carlos Hernandez his first KO loss. And Carlos Hernandez is somebody that I feel like is gritty, tough, hard to put away.
Yeah, had a good chin.
And Tatsuro Taira, who's known as a grappler, came out, put his hands together, dropped Carlos Hernandez, and then got him out with some good ground and pound. So
that's where I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's where he like catches people off guard because they're so worried about the takedowns that he's been working in those feints like a takedown and then come with that overhand right or come with the big left hook and it's just flatline him. It's catching him. So,
but yeah, my pick is gonna be Tatsuro Taira in this fight. Just feel like he is gonna be able to implement his will in the grappling. I feel like he might even be the better striker between the two. From what I've seen in his last fight, he had some very quick hands and was as soon as he seen Carlos was hurt, he jumped on him and he got him out of there. So he has that killer instinct. Yeah, my pick's gonna be Tatsuro Taira, and I'm gonna go by finish, but I could see Alex Perez weathering a storm and Tatsuro Taira getting a decision.
Right. But, so that's the card.
That's the whole card, and I think this is gonna be a fire card.
Hey, this is one of those sleeper cards. I was talking to people I work with. People don't really know the names, but I'm telling y'all, if y'all got the time, do not miss this card. Yeah, it's usually these sleeper cards that put on the banger fights.
Good card. I feel like it's gonna be some exciting fights. I feel like some good betting spots.
Great.
We are gonna work on some more ways to implement just potential bets at the end of these breakdowns. We're going to talk about it, just come up with some ideas on what we could do, maybe a split decisions parlay.
Give y'all some props, maybe, something that you can tell with us that we can tell together.
Something fun that we can do together. Yeah, so we're working on new ways to just be more interactive and give y'all what y'all want and, we can all make some money together. We can all enjoy the fights together. So,
right. We appreciate y'all. See y'all next week.
Yes, sir.
Y'all enjoy the fights.